In this video, we will look at a few obstacles to decision making, things that get in the way when we're trying to make judgment. The first obstacle is the availability heuristic. This is basing a decision on something that's fresh or available in our mind, something that we've just recently seen. So a lot of times, this involves things that we've recently heard on the news or seen on television. For example, let's say you see on the news that a plane has crashed. A lot of times people will cancel their upcoming flights. We see it on the news, it's fresh in our minds or available in our minds, so we think it's going to happen to us. We presume that these events are common and that we might fall into that category. The picture on the left here represents the SARS outbreak. It could be also the H1N1 flu, or what's going on right now, the coronavirus. When we see statistics being reported on the news day after day after day, we find it very alarming. It's fresh in our minds, so we take precautions, thinking that there's a strong likelihood that things could happen to us as well, that we are seeing in the news. Another good example would be what I call the summer of the shark. Several years ago, I guess the news media was bored, and they were announcing and covering every single shark attack that took place that summer. So you're seeing these on the news, and you're thinking that sharks are running rampant. And I can remember going to the beach, and I told my children, who were adolescent girls, don't get in the water above your knees because sharks are everywhere and they're attacking a lot this year. And this can be very misleading. This was something that was fresh in my mind, available in my mind because I was watching it on the news and I was presuming it would happen to us and be very common. However, when looking at statistics that summer, there were actually fewer shark attacks than the previous summer. But because they were showing it on the news and it's fresh in your mind, you think that it can happen to you as well. Similar to years where they cover like the SARS outbreak and so forth, they're covering every single case. So we think that it's very common and it frightens us. And then they look back and they see, well, previous years, the influenza virus, the death rate may have been higher than the year that they were reporting every single case. So the availability heuristic is basing your decision on something that's available or something that's fresh in your mind that you've recently seen and you think is common and will happen to you as well. For the next obstacle to decision making, I'd like you to look at the following scenario. Who do you believe went to Harvard? Would it be the girl on the left or the man on the right in your mind? I always liked using that example because many of my students did not realize the man on the right was actually our former Vice President, Joe Biden. However, this is misleading. We tend to associate someone that looks stuffy in a suit as someone who would go to Harvard. But that, again, is misleading. We're basing our decision on our prototype or our mental image of a particular category. Here, someone who went to Harvard. It's actually Sonia Dara, as you can see, who is a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model and has her economics degree from Harvard. Another good example. If you saw the following two individuals come into your home responding to an ad you put in the paper looking for a nanny, which would you more likely trust with your child? Most of you would probably say the little old lady. But again, that could be misleading. You're basing your answer off your mental image or prototype of what you think, your best representation of what you think a nanny would look like. That could be a bad decision. The little old lady could beat your child with her pocketbook there when you left for work, and the boy at the top might be the best babysitter ever. This is known as the representativeness heuristic. So this is making a decision on your best representation, your mental image or prototype of a particular category. One more example of representativeness heuristic. If you saw these following pictures, who in your mind would jump out at you and be more likely to be a kindergarten teacher? Most of you in my class know who all of these people are. 3 of them are teachers other than President Trump. And most of you would say probably Mrs. Bonzel here in the bottom would be a better representativeness or a better representative in your mind or mental image in your mind of who would most likely be a kindergarten teacher. Again, that could be making a bad decision based on your prototype. One of the other men in the picture might make an excellent kindergarten teacher, but we tend to base our decisions off of our prototypes. A third obstacle in our decision-making process is framing or wording. The way an issue is posed, it can alter our decisions. For example, if you walk into the market and you're looking for ground beef, you're more likely to buy ground beef that says 75% lean as opposed to a package that says 25% fat. We don't want to see that word fat. And a lot of times, different stores will advertise sales that can be misleading. Here you might see, oh, there's 2 for $5 in packs of strawberries. And you think, well, I have to buy both because I'm getting a good deal. When in reality, they're normally about $2.50 a piece on a regular basis. The fact that we tend to be overconfident in our thinking that we're better than when we're confident or know more than we actually do, can cause us to make bad decisions. You know, I often hear parents say to their children, make sure you don't text and drive. And yet, those very same parents that tell their children not to do that are very likely to look at their phone while driving. And when asked, they'll say, well, I'm a better driver. I've been driving longer. And that is the concept of being overconfident. Actually, nobody should text and drive. We cannot multitask. So taking your eyes off of the road is making a very bad decision. But somehow we tend to think that we're better at things than other people. The next obstacle to making decisions involves confirmation bias. A bias is a belief or opinion, and it's usually a strong opinion or belief that we have. And we tend to seek out people who support or confirm our beliefs. We never truly want to hear the other side. We don't seek out people to argue against us. So that can be very misleading because we never are truly objective. We never hear the opposing argument. People who are very politically minded fall into this entrapment. So someone who's a strong conservative may just sit and watch Fox News, may never want to look at CNN or MSNBC because that would be the enemy and they don't want to be proven wrong. The same with perhaps a liberal. They would just prefer to watch CNN or MSNBC, not wanting to hear the other side and hear Fox News. So again, that can cause us to make a bad decision because we just seek out people that will support and confirm our beliefs. Fixation is another obstacle to decision making. This is the inability to solve a problem from some unusual perspective, not being able to see out of the box. For example, I had a teacher who came into my room when her remote stopped working, even trying new batteries, the remote wouldn't work, and she couldn't figure out how to turn her projector on. And I said, you know, there is other ways. There is a power button on the projector. You could actually stand on a chair and turn that on using that power button. But to her, she could not see any other way to get the projector on other than using that remote. That is fixation. Functional fixedness is a form of fixation, but this is looking at objects. You're not being able to use an object other than what it was intended to be used for. So, for example, if you have a nail sticking out of a box, normally one would find a hammer or sticking out of a board to put the nail back in. Some people would not be able to use perhaps a rock or brick or something else that would be very hard to push that nail down in the board. That is functional fixedness. Again, looking at an object. The example that you will find in the book for functional fixedness is the candle mounting problem. If given this matchbox with matches in it and some tacks and a candle, using those materials, how could you mount that candle on a bulletin board? You would obviously have to use these things for a different purpose than what they were intended to be used for, and many people cannot figure that out. In solving that problem, you could simply remove the matches, take the box, using the tacks, tack it to the bulletin board, put the candle in, and then light it. Finally, the last obstacle to decision-making is something called belief perseverance. And this is clinging to a belief or opinion that you have, even if someone provides evidence that discredits you. I think that people who have iPhones as opposed to the Androids can get caught up in this. I have an iPhone, and anytime anybody tells me how good their Galaxy or Android or other type of phone is, I just completely ignore it because I'm an iPhone supporter. Another good example, when President Obama was elected, many people had the misconception that he was not a U.S.-born citizen, and even after he provided documentation, his birth certificate proving he was a U.S. citizen, people still clung to that belief and discredited him. So that would be belief perseverance.